has done for years and years to develop research reactors on their own. Cost them big bucks to get something that wouldn't work very well. The answer is no. This is not for medical isotopes. And there are lots of other reasons, but that's a good enough one. The overlap in India of military and civil power, well, IAEA inspects parts of some factories and not others in the same factory because part of it's military and it's not declared, and part of it's civil and it is declared. It can get very blurry depending on the agreements that are signed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question. I mean, there is nobody to ask Bob a question. Larry, keep it short.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that as Andrew Self, the Burma military specialist, said, in their wet dreams, the generals want nuclear weapons, without a doubt. No one denies that. But from what we've seen, is it possible that it's a great big hoax, and perhaps there's actually a hoax that's being played on Tan Shui, and that there is no real nuclear program?
Yes.
Nuclear weapon program?
Yes. Well, no, I've tried to say that through the whole thing. It's a very poorly managed program, and Tan Shui's mad at me for saying the emperor has no clothes. That's what I said at the end, right? But that doesn't mean that it couldn't be made to work. In fact, the worst thing that could happen is he looks at it and says, you guys have been lying to me, I'm going to shoot you, and you, now you do it. And you put a different group of people in there, but military people who understand milestones and getting things done, have goals, and they're not trying to write research papers, and you'll get a very different result. I've seen that in many countries. Libya, Iraq, South Africa.
Bob, the additional protocol provides the Burmese with a loophole, or this not signing it provides, not signing it provides them with a loophole. And is there any kind of pressure to be, or brought on them to sign it, or how far can a program go under the radar before they expose themselves and they would be pressured to sign it?
I don't know what pressure there is to make them sign it. They are voluntarily acceding to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Okay, they voluntarily signed up in, I think it was 92, but don't hold me to that. And that was a voluntary activity. The additional protocol is a voluntary activity. And so while 100 countries, Sudan being the most recent one that I can remember, was the 100th country to sign, those people don't have anything to hide and they're signing readily. And for some reason, Burma doesn't answer the phone when you ask them yes or no. So I think the issue there is they're being non-responsive. And I find that extremely offensive in my position as a safeguards employee of the IAEA in the past, that you would call up a country and say, please do something you're obligated to do something you signed a treaty to do, that you signed the agreement to do. If I have a bucket of money from the technical cooperation, they'll do anything. But you ask them to meet their obligations, they say no. So there is no pressure that I can think of to bring upon them other than normal diplomatic pressure, which takes a very long time. It'll move like a glacier.
Go ahead.
Alex Fridiani, independent member. Quick question. Where's the money coming from to make this go?
It's coming from gas and oil sales, I think. That's where it's really ramped up since the gas and
Zarni,
oil.
maybe you want to take that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Thailand is the number one provider of foreign income. It tops the foreign direct investors list, followed by China, which is likely to overtake in the long run. And the Chinese have just recently, during Tan Shui's visit, made interest-free loan of I think $4 billion for 30 years. Then Singaporeans, then Daewoo International, Total of France. You need money to fight wars, and also you need money to build war machines. Like Napoleon said, armies march on their bellies, and they don't march. In other words, you have to have full bellies to be able to walk and march. And so obviously that's why I mentioned Singapore and the banking facilities. They have provided to the Burmese regime. And there are some people who call Singapore Switzerland of the East. Make what you will out of that expression. There have been a number of quote-unquote NGO reports, done by Earth Rights International, looking primarily at the income flow and the banking, and then you can easily Google that. There are enablers, like financial enablers, technological enablers, policy enablers. If you turn this regime if you turn the other way when you know for a fact there is an established intent beyond the pale of the doubt, and there is an active program. We have to separate the existence of the program, and that is active, from the possibility of that program succeeding. And Burma is a treaty signatory to both NPT internationally and ASEAN. Again, the question comes back to the ASEAN. Is it a credible regional community that says what it means, or is it just economic market entity that has no value other than making profit or beggar thy neighbor policy? That is ultimately our questions. They're not going to attack the Americans and Europeans. And if the British intelligence say, well, we don't believe in this story. Well, the 60 million British are safe. The country doesn't have 45 minutes capability to launch chemical or any other weapons attack. But especially Thailand, you're next door. I mean, and given the history and given the militarism, they have approached everything from a military perspective. Even the election is to sort things out for the people so that we can reconcile among our Burmese people and bring our own migrant workers back home. The election is launched as basically a national military operation as far as the military, because they look at the world only through a one-dimensional lens of militarism. It's my way or highway. You've got that kind of neighbor next door. It's either my way or highway. It's something that Thailand does displeases them. They shut down Myanmar Bridge. It's called Friendship Bridge. It can be turned into hostility bridge overnight. And then so I think this is something that needs to be taken seriously. Everything starts very, very small. We start from our parents' sperm and over. Yeah? And I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to be blunt. People poo-poo the idea. I made this comment on Al Jazeera saying, the government in my country is incapable of making Pepsodent toothpaste for our citizens. I don't believe they will be capable of making nuclear bombs. That in retrospect, that was stupid comment that I made. They may not be able to do it on their own, but with someone else's help. And there's, you can always purchase help.
Kavi, maybe you want to comment on this ASEAN reference?
Because it's a paradox, because Thailand is the largest investor at the moment in Burma, and we also import around $880 million worth of energies from Burma. Essentially, it's translated into whatever capacity that Burma will have in the futures in this path of nuclear weapon system. Ironically, it's come from the funding of Thailand. Then you might ask the next question: why on earth the Thai officials have not done anything yet? I think the main reason is this: they are scared to think of other options. For example, now the prevailing attitude is that don't rock the boat. Don't do anything that upset the Burmese. So you have these mentality governing decades of policy maker who dare not challenge. As you can see, so Burma continue to plot a policy that strictly militarize, strictly securitize all the border and all the factors. And Thailand just cannot understand it. All we care is just to make sure that we sell our products, the economics. In fact, we exchange economic interests for the whole security. That is why Burma feel confident when they enter into negotiation on discussion with Thailand. And I think that is one of the most important factor. Unless we change the mindset of the Thai, then start thinking of the option and alternative. For example, we are too dependent on the energy from Burma, and we never look at the option at the moment because they fear, that if anything is, the lesson from the recent Senkaku incident between China and Japan is that China stopped exporting rare earth materials. The economy of Japan is in serious trouble. In the case of Thailand, at view, the Burmese junta shut down the borders, stopped all these kind of things. So we has been held hostage. So the only way to fix this is to change the mindset and looking for real alternative on energy. As long as there's nobody attempt to remove this mindset, this pattern will continue and we will regret this policy. And I can see that. From this energies focus policy. And I think I have to blame Ministry of Energy for the meal picks policy they never thought of. But the other day they're looking for alternative in Nigeria, in Congo for oil. Thank you.
Bob, you want to share a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say 2 sentences about the cost of doing it in the Pepsodent toothpaste. I believe it was President Zia early in I think it was the Multan conference, you can test me later, in 1974 said, "I'd rather let the people eat grass, I want a nuclear bomb." And now they have nuclear bombs, they've detonated them, and they have the fastest growing nuclear weapons program in the world in Pakistan. So if you let the people eat grass, you can build bombs.